The whiskey burned going down, but it was nothing compared to the fire that had consumed Ryan Rourke's heart the day he found his wife in their bed with the town banker. That was 3 months ago in Eagle Pass, Texas, and the summer heat of 1877 had become his constant companion, along with the emptiness that gnawed at his insides worse than hunger ever could. Ryan sat at the corner table of the Silver Spur Saloon, his weathered hands wrapped around a glass he had no intention of finishing. The amber liquid reminded him too much of Catherine's hair, the way it used to catch the lamplight when she thought he was not watching. Now those memories felt like shards of glass embedded in his chest, cutting deeper every time he drew breath. She had packed her things that same afternoon, telling him she never loved him anyway, that their 2 years of marriage had been nothing but a prison sentence. She finally had the courage to escape. The banker had money, she said. Real money. Not the meager earnings of a horse rancher struggling to make ends meet in the unforgiving Texas landscape. The batwing doors swung open, letting in a blast of hot air, and a woman who looked like she had been dragged through every mile between here and nowhere. Ryan glanced up out of habit, then found himself unable to look away. She was tall and lean, with auburn hair plastered to her face with sweat and dust. Her dress, once probably a nice shade of blue, was torn at the hem and stained with travel, but it was her eyes that held him. They were the color of storm clouds, gray and turbulent, and they held the same kind of devastation he saw in his own reflection every morning. She walked to the bar with deliberate steps, like each one cost her something precious. "Water," she said to the bartender, her voice hoarse and cracking. "Please." The bartender, old Tom, who had seen everything twice and believed nothing anymore, poured her a glass without comment. She drank it like a woman dying of thirst, then asked for another. Ryan watched as she fumbled in her pocket and pulled out a few coins, counting them with trembling fingers. She came up short. "Put it on my tab," Ryan heard himself say, surprising himself more than anyone. The woman turned to look at him, suspicion warring with gratitude in her expression. "I do not take charity. It is not charity, it is common decency." Ryan stood and walked to the bar, fishing out enough coins for the water and a meal. "When is the last time you ate?" She stared at him for a long moment, and he could see her pride fighting with her desperation. Desperation won. "Yesterday morning. Maybe the morning before. I lost track." Tom brought over a plate of beef and potatoes without being asked, and the woman fell on it like a starving wolf. Ryan returned to his table and tried to mind his own business, but his eyes kept drifting back to her. When she finished eating, she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand and walked over to him. "Thank you," she said simply. "I will pay you back when I can." "Forget it." Ryan gestured to the chair across from him. "You running from something?" The question was too direct. He knew at the moment it left his mouth, but she sat down anyway. "Someone, my husband." The word came out bitter and broken. "Former husband, I should say, though the law might disagree since I did not exactly wait for papers." Ryan nodded slowly. "He hurt you." "In every way that matters." She looked down at her hands, and Ryan saw the fading bruises on her wrists, the yellowing mark on her jaw she had tried to hide with her hair. "I am Olivia Sawyer, or I was. I do not know who I am anymore. Ryan Rourke." He found himself extending his hand, and when she took it, her grip was firm despite the trembling. "I know something about not knowing who you are anymore." They sat in silence for a while, the sounds of the saloon washing over them. Someone was playing a melancholy tune on an out-of-tune piano. Men laughed and cursed over card games. The world kept turning even when individual worlds fell apart. "Where are you headed?" Ryan asked finally. "Anywhere that is not where I came from. I was in San Antonio. My husband, he was a merchant, respectable. Everyone loved him." The bitterness in her voice could have stripped paint. Behind closed doors, he was a monster. He controlled everything. What I wore, what I said, who I spoke to. And when I did not obey perfectly, he made sure I understood my place. Ryan felt anger kindle in his chest, hot and righteous. How long? 3 years. We married when I was 18. I am 21 now, and I finally found the courage to leave when he started talking about children. I could not bring a child into that hell. She met his eyes. He will be looking for me. He cannot stand the idea of losing something he considers his property. Eagle Pass is a long way from San Antonio, Ryan said. And if he comes looking, he will have to go through me first. Olivia's eyes widened. You do not even know me. Why would you put yourself at risk? Ryan thought about Catherine, about the way she had looked at him with contempt in those final moments, about the wreckage of trust and love scattered across his life. Because someone should have stood up for you before now. And because I know what it is like to have your heart torn out by someone who promised to cherish it. The words hung between them, raw and honest. Olivia studied his face, and whatever she saw there made her shoulders relax slightly. Your wife found her with another man. She said she never loved me, that I was not enough. Not rich enough, not exciting enough, just not enough. Ryan laughed, but there was no humor in it. Funny thing is, I gave her everything I had, worked myself near to death trying to build something for us. Turns out all she wanted was someone else's money and status. I am sorry, Olivia said softly. Betrayal is a special kind of pain. That it is. Ryan pushed his untouched whiskey toward her. You look like you could use this more than me. She shook her head. My husband drank. I swore I would not follow that path. She paused. Do you have somewhere I could stay? Just for tonight. I have been sleeping rough for 5 days. I have a little money, not much, but I can pay something. Ryan made a decision that he knew might be foolish but felt right in his gut. I have a ranch about 3 miles out of town. Nothing fancy, but it has a spare room. You can stay there, no charge, at least until you figure out your next step. I could not impose like that. You are not imposing. The place is too quiet anyway, has been since Catherine left. He stood and dropped a few more coins on the table. Come on. We can get you cleaned up and rested. Tomorrow we can figure out the rest. Olivia hesitated, then nodded. They walked out of the saloon together into the brutal Texas afternoon. Ryan's horse, a big roan gelding named Jasper, was tied at the rail. Can you ride? I can sit a horse if that is what you are asking. I am not much of a rider. Ryan swung up into the saddle and extended his hand to her. She took it, and he pulled her up behind him. She was lighter than he expected, all lean muscle and bone. When she wrapped her arms around his waist to steady herself, he felt something shift in his chest, like ice beginning to thaw after a long winter. The ride to the ranch took them through scrub brush and rocky terrain, past the occasional mesquite tree struggling for existence in the hard soil. The sun beat down mercilessly, but Olivia did not complain. She held on and stayed quiet, and Ryan appreciated that more than words could express. His ranch came into view as they crested a low hill. It was not much to look at, just a simple wooden house with a barn and a few corrals. A dozen horses grazed in the nearest pasture, their coats gleaming in the sunlight. I breed and train horses, Ryan explained as they approached. It is honest work, and the horses do not lie to you. It looks peaceful, Olivia said, and there was a longing in her voice that made Ryan's heart ache for her. He helped her down from the horse and showed her inside. The house was clean but sparse, the kind of place that felt empty even when occupied. Spare room is there, he pointed down the hall. There is a pump out back if you want to wash up. I am afraid I do not have any women's clothes, but I can lend you a shirt that will serve as a nightdress until we can get you sorted. Thank you, Olivia said, and this time the gratitude in her voice went deeper than words. "You are a good man, Ryan Rourke." "I am just a man," he said quietly. "But I try." That night, after Olivia had washed and changed into one of his old shirts that hung nearly to her knees, they sat at his kitchen table and talked. Really talked in a way Ryan had not talked to anyone in months. She told him about her childhood in a small town in Louisiana, about her parents who died of fever when she was 16, about meeting James Sawyer and thinking he was her salvation when really he was her doom. She told him about the first time he hit her, how he cried afterward and promised it would never happen again, and how she believed him until it became a pattern she could not escape. Ryan told her about growing up on a ranch in New Mexico, about learning everything he knew about horses from his father before consumption took him. He told her about meeting Catherine at a church social, about courting her properly and believing they would build a life together. He told her about the gut punch of betrayal, about how he had blamed himself at first, wondering what he had done wrong. "You did not do anything wrong," Olivia said firmly. "She made a choice. A selfish, cruel choice. That is on her, not you." "Knowing it and feeling it are different things," Ryan replied. "Yes," Olivia agreed. "They are." They sat in comfortable silence after that, two wounded souls finding unexpected kinship in shared pain. When Olivia finally excused herself to sleep, Ryan sat up a while longer, staring at the empty hearth and thinking about how strange life could be. This morning he had woken up alone and broken. Tonight he was still broken, but he was not alone. The next few days fell into an unexpected rhythm. Olivia insisted on earning her keep, so she helped with chores around the ranch. She learned to feed the horses, to muck out stalls, to mend tack that had seen better days. Ryan discovered she had a gentle way with the animals, speaking softly to them and moving without the jerky fear that spooked horses sensed immediately. "You are good at this," he told her one morning as she brushed down a young mare who had been skittish with everyone else. "Animals do not judge you," Olivia replied. "They do not care about your past or your mistakes. They just care about how you treat them right now in this moment." Sounds like a good philosophy for people too. She smiled, and Ryan realized it was the first real smile he had seen from her. It transformed her face, making her beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with regular features and everything to do with the light that came from within. His heart did something complicated in his chest, and he turned away quickly, unsettled by the feeling. Over breakfast one morning about a week after Olivia arrived, she said, "I should start looking for work in town. Real work. I cannot stay here indefinitely living off your charity." "It is not charity," Ryan said for what felt like the 100th time. "But if you want work, I could use help here. The ranch has been running on half-effort since Catherine left. I could pay you a fair wage." Olivia set down her coffee cup. "Ryan, you do not have to do that." "I know I do not have to. I want to. You are good with the horses and I trust you. That is worth something." He met her eyes across the table. "Besides, I like having you here. The place feels less empty." Color rose in her cheeks and she looked down at her plate. "I like being here too. I feel safe for the first time in years." Something passed between them in that moment, something neither was quite ready to name. The air felt charged, full of possibility and danger in equal measure. They were both too raw, too recently wounded to trust what they might be feeling. But it was there, undeniable as the Texas sun. Ryan broke the moment by standing and clearing the plates. "So it is settled then. You work for me, I pay you, and we help each other out. Nothing complicated." "Nothing complicated," Olivia agreed, but the way she said it made it sound like a question. As summer deepened into August, they fell into an easy partnership that gradually became something more. They worked side by side during the long days, training horses and maintaining the ranch. In the evenings, they sat on the porch and talked while the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. Ryan found himself telling her things he had never told anyone, fears and dreams and half-formed hopes. Olivia opened up too, slowly at first but with increasing trust, sharing pieces of herself she had locked away during her marriage. One evening, as they watched a thunderstorm roll across the distant hills, Olivia said, "I never thought I could trust a man again, but you make me want to try." Ryan felt his breath catch. He turned to look at her, this strong, damaged woman who had somehow become essential to his days. "I never thought I could love anyone again after Catherine, but you make me remember what it felt like to hope, Ryan." His name on her lips was half prayer, half question. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. When she did not, he cupped her face gently, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw where the bruise had long since faded. "I know we are both broken. I know it is too soon and too complicated, but I think I'm falling in love with you, Olivia Sawyer." Tears welled in her eyes, catching the last light of the dying sun. "I think I am falling in love with you too, and it terrifies me." "Me too," Ryan admitted, "but maybe that is okay. Maybe we can be terrified together." He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she was something precious that might shatter. She kissed him back with a desperation that spoke of all the tenderness she had been denied, all the gentleness she thought she would never deserve. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard, and the world felt different somehow, like it had shifted on its axis. "I need to tell you something," Olivia said, her voice shaking slightly. "About James, about why I am really afraid." Ryan took her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. "Tell me." "Before I left, I overheard him talking to another merchant. He was arranging a business deal in Eagle Pass. Ryan, there is a chance he could come here, not looking for me, not at first, but for business. And if he sees me—" She stopped, swallowing hard. "He will not let me go. He will drag me back to San Antonio and make sure I never leave again." Anger flared hot in Ryan's chest, but he kept his voice calm. "Then we will deal with that if it happens. You are not alone anymore, Olivia. I will not let him hurt you. You do not know what he is like. He has money, influence. He could make trouble for you, ruin your business, maybe worse." "I do not care." Ryan squeezed her hand. "Some things are worth fighting for. You are worth fighting for." She leaned into him, and he wrapped his arms around her, holding her close while the storm rumbled in the distance. They stayed like that until the first drops of rain began to fall, then moved inside, still holding onto each other like lifelines in rough seas. The next few weeks were the happiest Ryan could remember in a long time. He and Olivia moved carefully around the growing feelings between them, neither wanting to rush into something they were not ready for, but unable to deny the connection that deepened with each passing day. They held hands while walking the property line. They kissed goodnight at her bedroom door with increasing reluctance to part. They learned each other's rhythms and moods, the comfortable intimacy of two people building something real. Ryan taught Olivia more advanced horsemanship, and she proved to be a natural. She had a gift for reading what an animal needed, patience where others had force, understanding where others had frustration. Together, they trained a particularly difficult stallion that Ryan had been about to give up on. And when the horse finally accepted a saddle and rider, they celebrated by riding out to a small creek on the property and having an impromptu picnic. "I never knew life could be like this," Olivia said, lying back on the blanket and looking up at the cloudless sky. "Simple, peaceful, real." Ryan lay beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. "I never knew heartbreak could lead to something good, but here we are." She turned her head to look at him. "Do you still think about her, Catherine?" Sometimes, Ryan admitted, but not with pain anymore, more like puzzlement, like I am trying to understand a stranger. What we had was not real, I see that now. She wanted something I could not give her, and I wanted someone she could never be. We were wrong for each other from the start. Do you think we are right for each other? Ryan propped himself up on one elbow so he could see her face properly. I think we understand each other in a way most people never will. We have both been through the fire and came out the other side still able to hope, still able to love. That is not nothing, Olivia. No, she agreed softly. That is not nothing. He kissed her then, slow and deep, and she responded with a passion that took his breath away. They lost themselves in each other for a while, hands exploring, hearts racing, but when things threatened to go further, Ryan pulled back. Not yet, he said, breathing hard. Not until you are sure. Not until we are both sure this is right. Olivia looked at him with such tenderness it nearly broke him. You are unlike any man I have ever known. I just want to do right by you. You deserve that. She pulled him back down for another kiss, gentler this time. You do right by me every single day. September arrived with slightly cooler temperatures and the promise of autumn on the horizon. Ryan and Olivia had settled into their relationship with increasing comfort, and he was starting to think about the future in ways he had not dared since Catherine left. He was considering asking Olivia to marry him, properly this time, when she was ready and free and whole. That dream came crashing down on a Tuesday afternoon when a fancy carriage rolled up the ranch drive. Ryan was in the barn shoeing a horse when he heard Olivia's sharp intake of breath from the doorway. He looked up to see her face gone pale as death, her eyes fixed on the carriage with an expression of pure terror. He is here, she whispered. James is here. Ryan set down his tools and moved to stand beside her. Stay behind me. A man climbed out of the carriage and Ryan hated him on sight. He was tall and well-dressed, with the kind of polished good looks that came from money and ease. His smile was practiced and did not reach his eyes, which were cold and calculating as they swept over the ranch before landing on Olivia. My dear wife, James Sawyer said, his voice dripping with false warmth. What a surprise to find you here. I have been searching everywhere. I am not your wife anymore, Olivia said, and Ryan was proud of how steady her voice was despite the fear he could feel radiating from her. I left you. That part of my life is over. James's smile did not waver, but his eyes went flat and dangerous. Come now, darling. You know that is not how marriage works. You took vows. Before God and witnesses, you became mine. You do not get to just walk away because you had a little fit of temper. It was not a fit of temper, Ryan said coldly. It was self-preservation. And the lady said she is not going with you, so I suggest you get back in your carriage and leave. James turned his attention to Ryan for the first time, looking him up and down with obvious disdain. And who might you be? The hired hand she has been warming a bed with while playing at ranch life. Ryan felt Olivia flinch behind him and his hands curled into fists. I am Ryan Rourke and this is my ranch. Olivia works for me and she is under my protection. You need to leave. Now. Protection. James laughed, but there was no humor in it. From what? Her loving husband who has been worried sick about her, who traveled all this way on business only to discover by chance that his missing wife was living in sin with some cowboy. He took a step closer. Olivia, get in the carriage. We are leaving. No. Olivia stepped out from behind Ryan to stand at his side. I am not going anywhere with you, James. You do not own me. You never did, no matter what you thought. Something ugly flickered across James's face. You ungrateful little wretch. After everything I gave you, everything I did for you. You were nothing when I found you, an orphan with no prospects. I made you respectable. I gave you a home, a position in society. You gave me a prison. Olivia shot back, her voice gaining strength. You controlled and manipulated and hurt me. You made me feel small and worthless. That is not love, James. That is cruelty. James's hand moved fast, reaching for Olivia's arm, but Ryan was faster. He caught the other man's wrist in a grip that made James wince. Do not touch her, Ryan said, his voice deadly quiet. Do not even think about it. Take your hands off me, James snarled. I will have the law on you for this. Assault, kidnapping, alienation of affection. I will ruin you. Try it, Ryan said. But first you are going to get off my property. Olivia is staying here of her own free will, and if you try to force her, you will find I am not as easy to intimidate as a woman you have been beating for 3 years. James jerked his arm free, his face red with rage. You know nothing about our marriage. She probably told you all kinds of lies, made herself out to be some kind of victim. But I know the truth. She is manipulative, hysterical, needed a firm hand to keep her in line. I have seen the bruises, Ryan said flatly. I have held her while she cried from nightmares about you. The only liar here is you, pretending to be respectable while being a monster behind closed doors. For a moment, James looked like he might attack Ryan. His whole body tensed, and murder flashed in his eyes. But Ryan stood his ground, and he was bigger, younger, and forged by hard ranch work into solid muscle. After a long, tense moment, James seemed to realize he was outmatched physically. This is not over, James said, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. You cannot keep her from me forever. She is my wife by law, and I will have what is mine. The only thing you will have is a long trip back to San Antonio, Ryan said. Leave now, or I will escort you off the property the hard way. James glared at them both, then turned on his heel and stalked back to the carriage. Before climbing in, he looked back at Olivia. You will regret this, he said coldly. Both of you will. They watched the carriage roll away, dust billowing in its wake. Only when it disappeared over the hill did Olivia seem to collapse, her legs giving out. Ryan caught her and held her tight while she shook like a leaf in a storm. He found me, she said, her voice breaking. I was not careful enough. Someone must have seen me in town, told him where I was. It does not matter how he found out, Ryan said firmly. What matters is that you are safe. He cannot force you to go back. You do not know that. The law favors husbands. He could get the sheriff involved, say I am his property. Then we will get you a lawyer. We will fight this properly. Ryan pulled back to look at her face. I meant what I said, Olivia. I will not let him take you. But even as he said the words, doubt gnawed at him. James Sawyer had money and connections, the kind of resources that could make trouble even for a man doing the right thing. And the law in 1877, Texas was not particularly kind to women who left their husbands, regardless of the reason. That night, they sat up late planning. Ryan had some money saved, enough to hire a lawyer if it came to that. Olivia had nothing but the clothes on her back and the new life she had built, but she was determined not to give up without a fight. If worst comes to worst, she said quietly, I will run again. I will not go back to him, Ryan. I would rather die. It will not come to that, Ryan promised, though he was not sure he believed it himself. We will find a way. 2 days later, the sheriff showed up at the ranch with papers. James Sawyer had filed a complaint alleging that Ryan was harboring a runaway wife and interfering in a legal marriage. The sheriff, a tired-looking man named Bill Crawford who had known Ryan for years, looked apologetic as he explained the situation. I have to follow the law, Ryan, Crawford said. Sawyer has legal documents proving he is married to Miss Olivia. By rights, she is supposed to return to him. Even if he has been beating her, Ryan demanded. Even if she fears for her life, Crawford sighed. That is a separate matter. She would need to bring charges, have proof, go through the courts. but as it stands right now, the law says a wife belongs with her husband." "That is not justice," Ryan said hotly. "No," Crawford agreed, "but it is the law. I am sorry, Ryan, I truly am. But if Miss Olivia does not come to town with me to sort this out, I will have to arrest you for obstruction." Olivia stepped forward before Ryan could argue further. "I will go," she said. "I will not have Ryan arrested for trying to help me." "No," Ryan started, but she put a hand on his arm. "It is okay," she said, though her eyes told a different story. "We will figure this out through proper channels. Get that lawyer you mentioned. I will be fine for now." But Ryan could see she did not believe that any more than he did. With a heavy heart, he watched her ride away with the sheriff, back toward town and whatever trap James Sawyer had prepared for her. Ryan did not waste time. He rode straight to the office of Samuel Mackenzie, the only lawyer in Eagle Pass, and laid out the whole situation. Mackenzie, a sharp-eyed man in his 50s with a reputation for taking on difficult cases, listened carefully. "It is a tough situation," Mackenzie admitted. "Marriage law heavily favors the husband. But if we can prove sustained abuse, we might be able to get a judicial separation, maybe even an annulment in extreme cases. What do we need? Evidence. Witnesses to the abuse if possible. Medical records documenting injuries. Testimony from Miss Olivia about what she endured." Mackenzie leaned back in his chair. "The problem is, we are going up against a wealthy man with connections. James Sawyer has already been spreading money around town, talking to people, building a case that his wife is mentally unstable and that you seduced her away from him." Ryan felt sick. "None of that is true." "Truth is not always what matters in court," Mackenzie said bluntly, "but we will do our best. Give me a day to file the proper paperwork and see what I can arrange." Ryan left the lawyer's office feeling helpless and frustrated. He went to the hotel where the sheriff had taken Olivia, but James Sawyer was there in the lobby, all false smiles and veiled threats. "Come to see my wife?" James asked pleasantly. "I am afraid that would not be appropriate. We are reconciling, you see, all a misunderstanding." "Where is she?" Ryan demanded. "I want to see her. She is resting. The poor dear has been through such an ordeal, all this wild behavior, living in sin with a stranger. Clearly she was not in her right mind." James's smile sharpened. "But I forgive her, of course. That is what a good husband does." Ryan wanted to hit him so badly his hands shook with it. But starting a fight would only hurt Olivia's case, so he forced himself to walk away. He spent a sleepless night at his ranch, the empty house echoing with Olivia's absence. The next morning, Mackenzie sent word that he had managed to arrange a hearing before Judge Hartwell for that afternoon. It was a small victory, a chance to present their side before James could spirit Olivia back to San Antonio. The hearing took place in the small courtroom above the general store. Judge Hartwell, an old man with piercing blue eyes, presided with stern neutrality. James sat at one table with his lawyer, a slick man from San Antonio. Ryan and Mackenzie sat at another. Olivia was brought in looking pale and exhausted, with James watching her every move. The proceedings were tense and formal. James's lawyer painted a picture of a devoted husband searching for his troubled wife, a woman who had fallen under the influence of an opportunistic rancher, taking advantage of her fragile mental state. He produced the marriage certificate, witnesses who would attest to James's good character in San Antonio, even a letter from a doctor saying Olivia had always been prone to hysteria. When it was their turn, Mackenzie called Olivia to testify. She stood in the witness box, her voice shaking at first but growing stronger as she told her story. She described the gradual escalation of control and violence, the isolation, the fear. She rolled up her sleeves to show scars that were harder to see but still visible if you knew to look. She talked about the terror that had driven her to flee with nothing but the clothes on her back. "Why should we believe you?" James's lawyer asked coldly. "You are an admitted runaway, living with a man not your husband. Is it not true you simply wanted to indulge in an adulterous relationship and needed a story to justify your sinful behavior?" "No," Olivia said firmly. "I left because I feared for my life. I met Ryan weeks after I fled. He offered me safety and kindness, things I had forgotten existed. But I would have left San Antonio even if I had nowhere to go, because staying would have killed me eventually." Ryan testified next, describing the condition Olivia had been in when she arrived in Eagle Pass, the bruises, the fear, the way she flinched at sudden movements. Other witnesses corroborated that they had seen Olivia working honestly at Ryan's ranch, that her behavior had been perfectly appropriate. Judge Hartwell listened to everything with an unreadable expression. When all the testimony was complete, he sat silent for a long moment, then spoke. "This is a difficult case. The law is clear about the sanctity of marriage, but it is also clear that a husband has duties of protection and care toward his wife. Mr. Sawyer, I am troubled by some of what I have heard here today. However, I cannot simply dissolve a legal marriage based on accusations without substantial proof." Ryan felt his heart sink, but the judge was not finished. "What I can do is this. I am granting a temporary separation of 6 months. During that time, Miss Olivia will be free to reside where she chooses without interference from her husband. Mr. Sawyer, you are ordered to stay away from Miss Olivia and to have no contact with her. If after 6 months Miss Olivia wishes to return to the marriage, that is her right. If she does not, we will revisit the matter with the possibility of a more permanent legal solution." James shot to his feet. "Your Honor, this is outrageous. She is my wife. And you will have a chance to prove you deserve her return," Judge Hartwell said coldly. "But I will not send a woman back to a potentially dangerous situation without giving the matter proper consideration. My ruling stands. 6 months. If you violate this order, Mr. Sawyer, I will hold you in contempt and you will see the inside of a jail cell. Do I make myself clear?" James looked like he wanted to argue more, but his lawyer put a restraining hand on his arm. "Yes, Your Honor," he said through gritted teeth. Ryan felt relief wash through him so intensely he almost staggered. Across the room, Olivia was crying quietly, and he wanted nothing more than to go to her, but he waited until the judge dismissed them. Then he was at her side, catching her as she stumbled into his arms. "It is not over," she said against his chest. 6 months. He will come back in 6 months. "Then we have 6 months to figure out a permanent solution," Ryan said. "And maybe by then, we will have found a way to make sure you never have to go back." James left Eagle Pass that evening, but not before making sure everyone knew he would be back, that Olivia was still his wife in the eyes of God and law. Ryan ignored the whispers and took Olivia home to the ranch, where she finally let herself break down completely. He held her through the storm of tears, through the shaking and the fear and the release of tension she had been holding since James appeared. "I am sorry," she kept saying. "I brought this trouble to your door. I should leave, go somewhere else so you are not caught up in this." "You are not going anywhere," Ryan said firmly. "We are in this together, remember, for better or worse." She looked up at him with red-rimmed eyes. "That sounds like marriage vows." "Maybe it is," Ryan said. "Maybe that is what we should do, get married, really married. Then James has no legal claim because you would be my wife." Olivia pulled back slightly. "Ryan, I cannot ask you to do that. It would be a huge risk. And besides, I am still legally married to him. We could not get a license." Then we will wait out the 6 months, and the moment you are free, we will make it official." Ryan took her face in his hands. "I love you, Olivia Sawyer. I want to marry you not to thwart James, but because I cannot imagine my life without you in it. These past months have been the best of my life, even with all the complications. You make me whole in ways I did not know I was broken." "I love you too," Olivia said, fresh tears spilling over. "But are you sure? This is not how either of us thought our lives would go." "I am more sure of this than I have been of anything," Ryan said. "We have both been through hell and came out the other side. We understand each other. We have built something real here, something worth fighting for. When you are free, will you marry me?" Olivia kissed him then, deep and passionate and full of promise. "Yes," she said when they finally broke apart. "Yes, I will marry you, Ryan Rourke." They held each other as the sun set over the ranch, two broken people who had somehow found a way to heal each other. The road ahead was not going to be easy. There would be more battles with James, more legal complications, more people who judged them for the choices they made. But they would face it together. The 6 months that followed were a strange mixture of happiness and tension. Ryan and Olivia lived and worked side by side, their love deepening with each passing day. They were careful to maintain propriety for the sake of Olivia's legal situation, her sleeping in the spare room, them behaving circumspectly when in town. But alone on the ranch, they allowed themselves to dream about the future. Ryan taught Olivia everything he knew about horses, and she proved to have a real gift for training. Together they took on more challenging projects, building a reputation that brought clients from all over the region. The ranch prospered, and so did they. They talked about expanding, about buying more land, about the life they would build together. At night, they sat on the porch and planned their wedding. "Nothing fancy," Olivia said. "Just something simple and real, with friends as witnesses and a future stretching out ahead of them bright with possibility." Ryan wanted to give her everything she had been denied in her first marriage, all the love and respect and partnership she deserved. James stayed away, though they heard rumors that he was back in San Antonio spreading poison about both of them. Ryan did not care. Let people think what they wanted. He knew the truth, and so did Olivia. That was all that mattered. As the 6-month mark approached, Mackenzie worked on the legal paperwork that would officially end Olivia's marriage to James. There were complications, as there always were, but the lawyer was confident that, with the judge's initial ruling and the evidence they had gathered, they could make a strong case for permanent separation, or even annulment based on cruelty. The night before the final hearing, Ryan and Olivia lay in the grass outside the house, looking up at the stars. "Are you nervous?" Ryan asked. "Terrified," Olivia admitted, "but also hopeful. For the first time in my life, I feel like I am in control of my own destiny. Whatever happens tomorrow, I am not the same frightened girl who ran away from San Antonio. I am stronger now, because of you, but also because of me." "You were always strong," Ryan said. "You just needed someone to remind you." "We reminded each other," Olivia corrected. "You were broken too, remember, from Catherine's betrayal. We healed together." Ryan thought about that, about how true it was. When Olivia first arrived, he had been drowning in bitterness and self-doubt. Catherine's betrayal had made him question everything about himself, his worth as a man and a partner. But loving Olivia, being loved by her in return, had shown him that Catherine's choices said nothing about his value. Some people were simply incapable of seeing the treasure right in front of them. He had been a treasure to Catherine, but she had been too blind and selfish to recognize it. Just as Olivia had been a treasure to James, and he had been too cruel and controlling to deserve her. "We saved each other," Ryan agreed. "And tomorrow we start the next chapter." The hearing the next day was mercifully brief. James did not even show up, sending his lawyer instead with a grudging agreement to a legal separation. Apparently, he had found someone else in San Antonio, a younger woman with a larger dowry, and was eager to move on. The lawyer handed over signed documents that essentially freed Olivia from the marriage, and Judge Hartwell made it official with a stroke of his pen. "You are free, Miss Sawyer," the judge said with a rare smile. "I wish you all the best in your future." Olivia walked out of that courtroom with her head held high, and Ryan was right beside her, his hand in hers. They went straight to the church and arranged for a wedding the following Sunday. Word spread quickly through Eagle Pass, and opinion was mixed. Some people were scandalized by the speed of it all, the appearance of impropriety. But others, especially those who had gotten to know Olivia over the past months, were happy for them. The wedding day dawned clear and bright, a perfect March morning in 1878. Olivia wore a simple dress she had sewn herself, pale yellow like sunshine. Ryan wore his best suit, nervous as a colt but happier than he had ever been. The ceremony was held in the little church with about 20 guests, friends and neighbors who genuinely cared about them. When the preacher asked if anyone objected, there was a moment of tense silence. But no one spoke up, and the ceremony continued. Ryan and Olivia exchanged vows they had written themselves, promises of love and respect and partnership. When the preacher finally said he could kiss his bride, Ryan did so tenderly, aware that this was a new beginning for both of them. The reception was held at the ranch, a simple affair with food and music and dancing. Ryan danced with his wife, marveling at how right it felt to call her that. His wife, not a possession but a partner, an equal, someone who chose him freely and completely just as he chose her. As the sun began to set and the guests started to leave, Ryan pulled Olivia aside. "Are you happy?" he asked. "Happier than I ever thought possible," she said honestly. "This is everything I never knew I wanted. A good man, an honest life, freedom to be myself." "I feel the same way. You brought me back to life, Olivia. Before you came, I was just going through the motions. Now I feel like I am actually living again." They stood together watching the last of the light fade from the sky, the ranch settling into evening quiet around them. This was home, Ryan thought. Not just the land and the buildings, but this feeling of belonging, of being exactly where he was meant to be with exactly who he was meant to be with. Their wedding night was everything their first marriages had not been. Tender and passionate and full of mutual care, two people loving each other completely and without reservation. They took their time discovering each other, building pleasure slowly, communicating openly about what felt good and what did not. It was healing in ways neither had fully anticipated, washing away old hurts and fears with new joy. Afterward, as they lay tangled together in sheets damp with sweat and satisfaction, Olivia said, "I did not know it could be like this. Loving someone, being intimate." James made it all about control and his own pleasure. But this, with you, it feels like a conversation, like we are telling each other things without words. "That is what it should be," Ryan said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Two people giving and receiving equally. Making each other feel cherished." "I do feel cherished," Olivia said softly. "For the first time in my life, I feel truly valued." The months that followed their wedding were the happiest either of them had known. The ranch continued to thrive, their reputation for quality horses growing throughout Texas. They hired a hand to help with the increased workload, a young man named Tom who was respectful and hardworking. With the extra help, Ryan and Olivia had more time for each other, for long rides across the property, for lazy Sunday mornings in bed, for building the life they both wanted. By summer, Olivia realized she was pregnant. She told Ryan one evening as they were grooming horses, too excited to wait for a more romantic moment. Ryan dropped the brush he was holding and swept her into his arms, spinning her around until she laughed and begged him to stop before she got dizzy. "A baby," he said, wonder in his voice. "We are going to have a baby. Are you happy?" Olivia asked, suddenly nervous. "I know we did not really plan this so soon." "Happy does not begin to cover it," Ryan assured her. "You have given me everything, Olivia. A reason to hope, a real marriage, and now a child. I am the luckiest man alive." The pregnancy progressed smoothly, and they prepared for the new arrival with equal parts excitement and terror. Neither had parents to guide them, no family to lean on for advice, but they had each other and the friends they had made in Eagle Pass. The women of the town, whatever they had thought about the scandalous marriage, rallied around Olivia as her time grew near, bringing baby clothes and advice and support. In February of 1879, on a cold but clear morning, Olivia went into labor. Ryan stayed with her through the whole ordeal, holding her hand and wiping her brow and telling her she was strong. She could do this. 20 hours later, their son was born, a healthy baby with a good set of lungs and his father's dark hair. They named him Thomas Ryan Rourke, after Ryan's father. Holding his son for the first time, Ryan felt tears stream down his face unashamedly. This tiny, perfect person was a fresh start, a symbol of everything good that had come from the pain of the past. He looked at Olivia, exhausted but radiant, and felt his heart overflow with love for his little family. "We did it," Olivia said softly. "We survived everything and came out on the other side with this." "We did more than survive," Ryan said. "We built something beautiful." Little Thomas thrived, growing from a tiny infant into a chubby, happy baby who seemed to smile at everything. Ryan proved to be a devoted father, getting up for nighttime feedings, changing diapers without complaint, singing lullabies in his off-key voice that somehow always soothed the baby to sleep. Olivia bloomed in motherhood. All her protective instincts and capacity for love focused on this child she had been terrified to bring into the world with James. One evening when Thomas was about 6 months old, Ryan and Olivia sat on the porch watching the sunset while their son dozed in Olivia's arms. "Do you ever think about the past anymore?" Ryan asked. "Catherine, James, all of that." Olivia considered the question carefully. "Sometimes," she admitted, "but not with anger or pain anymore. More like remembering a bad dream that has no power over me now. They were part of my story, but they do not define me." "Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense," Ryan said. "I feel the same way. Catherine's betrayal led me to you. James's cruelty drove you to Eagle Pass. I would not change anything because it brought us here to this moment. To this life," Olivia agreed. "I used to think I would never trust anyone again after James, but you showed me that not all men are like him. You showed me what real love looks like. Patient, kind, respectful, equal. You showed me the same things," Ryan said. "After Catherine, I thought I was not enough. Not rich enough, not exciting enough, just not enough, period. But you love me for who I am, not for what I can give you or how I make you look to others. That is a gift beyond price." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the evening birds singing their twilight songs, the ranch settling into night around them. This was peace, Ryan thought. Real, deep peace that came from knowing you were exactly where you belonged with the people you were meant to be with. The years rolled on, bringing new challenges and joys in equal measure. They had 2 more children, a daughter named Emma in 1881, and another son they called James, ironically enough, in 1883, reclaiming the name and giving it new associations with love instead of pain. The ranch continued to prosper, becoming one of the most respected horse operations in Texas. Ryan and Olivia built a larger house, expanded their land holdings, and employed several hands. But through all the growth and change, what remained constant was their love for each other. They never took it for granted, never let the hurts of their past relationships poison what they had built together. They communicated openly, fought fairly when they disagreed, and always chose each other. On their 10th anniversary, Ryan took Olivia back to the spot where he had first kissed her, the porch of the original small ranch house they now used for storage. "Do you remember that night?" he asked. "Every detail," Olivia said. "I was so scared but so hopeful. I could not believe someone like you was real, that you could look at damaged, broken me and see something worth loving." "You were never broken," Ryan said firmly. "Hurt, yes, scared, absolutely, but never broken. You were the strongest person I knew from the moment you walked into that saloon refusing charity even though you desperately needed help." "We were both damaged," Olivia corrected gently. "But we healed each other. That is what love does when it is real. It does not demand perfection. It accepts wounds and helps them mend." Ryan pulled her close, and they swayed together under the stars to music only they could hear. "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" "For walking into my life when I needed you most. For being brave enough to stay. For building this beautiful life with me. For everything." Olivia smiled against his chest. "Thank you for seeing me, for protecting me, for loving me when I did not know how to love myself, for giving me a family and a home and a future I never dared dream about." They stayed like that for a long time, two people who had been broken by betrayal but found wholeness in each other. The road from pain to peace had not been easy or straight, but they had walked it together, and that made all the difference. In the house, their children slept safely, the ranch thrived, and tomorrow would bring its own challenges and rewards. But tonight, this moment was perfect. Ryan Rourke and Olivia Rourke, once shattered by the people who should have loved them, had found a love that healed and restored and made everything new. They had taken their pain and transformed it into something beautiful, proving that even the deepest wounds could mend when tended with patience and genuine care. As they finally walked back to the house hand in hand, Ryan thought about the man he had been 3 years ago, drowning in whiskey and bitterness. That man felt like a stranger now. Love had not erased his past or made the betrayal disappear, but it had given him a future worth living for. It had shown him that one person's inability to value you said nothing about your worth. The right person would see you clearly and choose you completely, flaws and all. Beside him, Olivia was thinking similar thoughts about the terrified woman who had stumbled into Eagle Pass with nothing but the clothes on her back and bruises she tried to hide. That woman had been surviving, not living. Now she was thriving, surrounded by love and safety and respect. She had learned that her past did not define her future, that she deserved kindness and partnership, that real strength came not from enduring abuse, but from having the courage to leave it behind. They checked on their children, 3 beautiful souls sleeping peacefully with no knowledge of the pain that had preceded their existence. Thomas was 8 now, already showing signs of his father's way with horses. Emma at 5 was fearless and curious about everything. Little James at 3 was still mostly interested in following his older siblings around and getting into amusing mischief. "They will never know what we went through to get here," Olivia whispered as they stood in the doorway watching their children sleep. "No," Ryan agreed. "And that is a blessing. They will grow up knowing they are loved unconditionally, that their home is safe, that their parents are partners who respect each other. They will have a foundation we never did." In their own bedroom, they prepared for sleep with the easy intimacy of a decade together. Ryan watched Olivia brush out her long hair, still as beautiful to him as the day they met, maybe more so because now he knew every facet of her heart and mind. Olivia caught him watching and smiled, the expression transforming her face with warmth. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "How lucky I am. How different my life could have been if you had not walked into that saloon 3 years ago. I think about that too sometimes. What if I had gone to a different town? What if you had not been there that day? How many tiny decisions led us to each other?" "I do not believe in fate exactly," Ryan said. "But I believe we found each other when we both needed it most. That has to mean something." "It means everything," Olivia said simply. They settled into bed, Olivia curling against Ryan's side like she had done 1,000 times before. This was home, not the building or the land, but this feeling of belonging completely to someone who belonged equally to you. They had been betrayed by people who promised to love them, but that betrayal had ultimately led them to real love, the kind that endured and grew and made everything worthwhile. As sleep claimed them, Ryan's last conscious thought was gratitude. For his wife, his children, his life. For second chances and new beginnings. For the fact that pain, while unavoidable, did not have to be permanent. Healing was possible. Happiness was possible. Love, real and true and lasting, was possible even after heartbreak. Beside him, Olivia dreamed of tomorrow, of watching their children grow, of growing old with this good man who had shown her what marriage should be. She dreamed of years stretching ahead full of ordinary moments made extraordinary by love. She dreamed of a future she had built with her own hands alongside a partner who valued her as an equal. The Texas nights settled over the ranch, stars wheeling overhead in their ancient patterns. In town, Eagle Pass went about its business, some people still gossiping about the Rourkes and their unconventional beginning, others having moved on to fresher scandals. None of it mattered to the family sleeping peacefully in the ranch house. Ryan and Olivia Rourke had taken the broken pieces of their hearts and forged something new and strong. They had proven that betrayal did not have to be the end of the story, that love could bloom even in the hardest soil, that two wounded souls could heal each other if they were brave enough to try. Their love story was not perfect or conventional, but it was real and hard-won and entirely theirs. And that, in the end, was all that truly mattered.